chickens, all kinds of stuff. Here in Salinas, all over Carmel Valley, all the way up to where we have land now, which is our families, and also tribal land. In the book, you're going to see Lynn's telling the story through her camera, through her lens. You're going to see the transition from where she started when we were under the plight of going through that 30 years of suffering and fighting dams and fighting the U.S. government who want to, on top of our mountains in Montana. We have the cleanest air in the world up there because of the way the fog pushes and the orographical lift of the mountains of the San Lucias. The San Lucias actually have the steepest incline of any mountain from the sea to the highest points there in the Conserve Peak. And of anywhere else in the world, it's a pretty fascinating spot. We have 8 distinct life zones in the San Lucias and the Big Sur and Carmel Valley Mountains. The San Lucia Mountains run from Monterey, PG, Pacific Grove, all the way south, down towards like Santa Barbara. San Luis Obispo, excuse me. It's a very big area. So, again, in the book, you'll see these things. And it's just been a great honor to work with you, to know you for all these years, to grow together all these years. We could drag her all over the mountains on horseback. Jay over here, my longtime friend, lifelong friend, would take her on horseback. He came along, met Lynn, ended up being her guide, taking her places. He's a cameraman himself. They've had a relationship of loving the mountains, loving the camera. Jay, thank you for all the sharing of all these locations and being in this book with us. So, thank you. Take it again when you're done.
Yeah, I was always concerned about the development and the destruction of Mother Earth, and Native Americans were the guarders of the earth and not taking out just what they needed to survive, not the greed of the developers and the destruction. And the book is called Flames Against the Dark, Saving America's Sacred Sites, because there are sites on the earth that are so sacred. Most people don't even understand what that means. And for me to have the honor of meeting Tom Little Bear and his wife, Kara, who's here, and his father and mother, who welcomed me into their home different times that I came out, and the honor of being able to ride and see the beautiful land and see the cave paintings that were on the verge of being destroyed by a dam that was going to wash away all of the birthing rock and the very important historical places for the Esalen tribe and the other California tribes that also lived in the area. Was just a very sad situation, as well as on the protest ride, the river was completely dry until the mouth. The water was being sucked out by developers, watering golf courses. It was amazing that, and it destroyed the salmon, and the steelhead had no way to return. And what I just wanted to say was, when I came back a couple of years, about 2 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago, Tom called me and said, "We got some of our land back. Come out and photograph the new land." And for me, I was actually very ill, but it got me out of bed and back to wanting to see that beautiful land, and helped me actually to be cured. And the disease that I had went into remission. And so just having the honor of actually seeing now, in the 35 years since I started, the land being returned to the people who were going to honor it and save it the most, which are the Native Americans who know how to preserve the land. It's just been a wonderful thing to watch the mouth and the river continue to the ocean now, which is one of the pictures in the book that I've seen, and to watch at least certain problems having been solved a little bit and answered. And my love of horses I've taken a lot of the photographs in the book from horseback, and I've always connected to horses and animals, and that's for me was a special journey into the lands through the horses and working with Tom. And I think I'm going to give him the microphone for him to tell you just how much his land back movement has accomplished at this point. And it's just really exciting for me to see this. And the fact that this particular book took so long to come out for different reasons. And my former boss wrote the introduction, who was the head of photography at Newsweek, and one of the curators who now runs the museum, the New York Historical Society Museum, wrote the afterword, have been along caring about these issues all the time. And so I'm going to give the microphone back so Tom can talk about the exciting things happening with the Esalen tribe.
Thank you, Lynn. Yes, you know, everybody knows the story of California. History is written. It's written on the walls. It's written on the mission walls. But you know, this land was all occupied by indigenous people. You know, there were Rumsen people here, Ohlone people, because known there's different names for different people. The Saline tribe, Saline Nation, which is a tribe, you know, in South Monterey County. The Esalen tribe, Ohlone known Esalen Nation. The Rumsen, there's quite a few bands of tribes. There's around 5 tribes that are all been, you know, scratching to be able to hold on to live here in Monterey County. It's become so overpriced for us to live on the lands. And for our tribe, we were really, because our family had land and we were, you know, the main part of the tribe, you know, we had land, but we never had, over 30 years ago, there was Asa Land in Big Sur Ranch, a wealthy guy from Switzerland, Axel Adler was his name. He came to Big Sur in the 1950s and started buying up old homesteads, ranches, Big Sur homesteads. And he amassed a lot of land. And he always wanted to, since 1980s, to give it back to the native people. So he wanted to give it back to our tribe. At that time, we couldn't even legally do anything. We didn't even have I couldn't even have done that ceremony I did with you guys until 1978, when the Native American Religious Freedom Act was enacted by the federal government and state governments to allow us to have a ceremony. It wasn't legal for us to have our language, speak our language. It was illegal to have saging. I mean, anything we do, we were handcuffed. Our lands were taken from us. We were pushed into boarding schools, you know, told to cut our hairs off. I mean, they cut our hair off, did everything. We know the history. We don't have to relive that. That's a generational trauma that we're going through, multi-generational trauma that we're going through. But there's a new movement going on. Through tribal government, through Native American, through government, they finally are realizing that, you know, the natives got really bad take. You know, all our lands were taken. Almost everything that we lived upon has been exploited beyond existence. And, you know, we all suffered. So many of the tribal members of indigenous groups in this area cannot afford. It used to be affordable in Seaside. It used to be affordable in Marina. It used to be affordable when people live. They just have to keep moving further away. So our tribal base, which is 300, near 400 now, members have, you know, they're like from all over. San Jose, you know, they have to move away to Nevada, they have to go to Oregon to get a homestead type of feeling. They're used to living that type of life. So, you know, what happened is we were able to, through Governor Newsom and Biden's administration, we were able to get funding available for tribal groups to be able to get land back. There was a big movement where the feds pushed it, then the state pushed it, but the tribes have been pushing and asking for our land back, a piece of land. They gave us reservations. Reservations, by the way, are for indigenous peoples to live on, but when you go to sell, they can't sell it. The federal government, Department of Interior, actually is the keeper of the title of the land of reservations. It is not truly Native Americans. They say, yes, you govern everything inside this border, and then you can act independently. But really, if you think about it, they don't own that land. But a Native American would never feel they have to own. We are just part of the earth. We don't own the earth. It owns us. We're the servitudes to Mother Earth. That connection, a disconnect has happened. And the elders, the people on the East Coast, the Iroquois Confederation of Nations, helped form democracy, helping the people to start this. We've all become one. There were prophecies that talked about, and this is even on our own cave walls, 6,000 or 7,000 years old. A giant turtle with 4 colors of man and woman, and a circle around that, green, with all the living things, and then blue with all the oceans and the air around us. It's a model that we were given, and we were given instructions to go out and learn each group, each color, red, yellow, black, and white. Those correlate. And I didn't bring my talking drum, which has the painting and the turtle, to show you, but in your mind, imagine a circle mandala, a turtle with its head and its feet and this, and on the back is where these are. But why did our ancestors know that, 8,000, 9,000 years ago? What were they trying to tell us? These are messages. We did not have a written language. We have an oral language. So everything was passed down through speaking, through songs, through what we're doing tonight. We're sitting around a campfire right now. I'm taking you back. This book takes you back. Lynn's been there. Jay's been there. Sarah's been out in the land. You may have come out. I don't know. You remember. Oh, where'd you go? There you are. You came out to our place in the old days.
I went with my other sister.
Oh. Yeah, so we had a long struggle of not having land. And then we finally got state recognized from the governor. Our tribe did our register. And, to be able to form a government, to be able to take land ownership back. So because this land was available, the problem is Axel Adler died. And then it went to his children, heirs, who haven't really been over here much. And, they put it on for sale. And it was listed $18 million. It ended up being, it's 1,200 acres, 1,199 to be exact, of land in Big Sur, redwoods, and river, Little Sur River. Just gorgeous. I mean, the views. It's got a mountain they call Bixby Mountain, same family of Bixby Bridge, which actually they were homesteaders of this land. It was hard for us as natives to know that was our land before. Somebody homesteaded it because the Homestead Act allows people to come and take up 160 acres and prove up on it or have a mine to gold. So, we went through a lot of locked gates, but we know that we are the keepers of the allodial title. The allodial title means a sacred, undivided trust in the land that can be nor bought, nor sold, nor traded, nor bartered for the benefit of all, the animals, the fish, the deer, the bear, everything, has a place, and we're just part of that. So for tribes to get land back is actually reigniting something that had been lost. The fire was extinguished. About, to live on the land, to be able to have a fire on the land, to be able to have ceremonies, sweat lodges, to be able to teach our youth, to be able to carry that knowledge forth. And that happened for us in 2020. We were able to get, I think it's 20 or 22, in 2020, we ended up getting that land back. We ended up getting a grant through the California Natural Resource Agency, which was a climate change grant. Actually, when indigenous people get their land back, they can actually benefit the climate in a dramatic way, of course. So that spurned a whole bunch of new land acquisitions all over the United States, basically. So we were the first and the smallest group and the first people to get actually land in our name. Because if you're a recognized tribe by the federal government, you cannot you can't own land. If we bought the land, and that's happened frequently in California and other states that have casinos, these tribes are getting back enough money to buy a $30 million property. The Chumash Nation, the Santee Ynez band down in the Santa Barbara area, they bought Seth Parker. Yes, Fess Parker. They bought his ranch for $38 million like 10 years ago. And as soon as they bought it, the government came over and says, excuse me, title company, that goes into the U.S. government name. And the Chumash like, what are you talking about? I said, oh no, this is not a anything you get and you buy because you're a federally recognized tribe, you do not have the right to do that. It's our land. We'll make a trust allotment, they call it. They're giving us a trust allotment. That means they trust you that you will take care of that land. And it's yours forever. If you screw up, it's ours. And it doesn't give you entitlement to the land. They keep all the mineral rights, all the water rights, I mean, you won't even believe the atrocities. People think, well, they got all their land now, right? Well, for us, California people, we were stomped on by the missionaries who came to save our souls and to bring a new religion to us. Can you imagine what it'd be like today if something landed outside, like all these weird-looking people, different, similar to us, but more like you think a typical ET, big eyes and pointy chins, they speak a different language, their skin looks different than ours. Not what our people thought when they saw these men coming on big horses. We've never seen horses before. You know what it was? We thought they were coyotes, giant. It was like a nightmare to see these people get out of this ship, which they did. They got out of the boats. And they came on, some of them came over land. And that was the first thing that happened to us, was seeing that happen. It was very traumatic. We were taken away from our land, ripped. One thing they did do, and this is leading up to reading the story, which is also a book, is that we were bringing, when the missionaries took our land, they were really good record keepers, and this will I give them the credit for. They took catechisms, they call them, of each person they took in. So Father Sarah, to my family, rode 30 leagues from Carmel Mission all the way out to Kashawa, which was the village of Kashawan, where my great-great-great-grandfather was the chief at that time, and he was baptized. His name was Gabriel. And he was baptized all the way out with that dam, not a quarter mile from where the dam they wanted to build was. And so that land that became land grants, Spanish land grants, were put together for tribes. That's one of the things that's helped us recently acquire a 14,700 acre property, which is the Rancho Tulositos, also known as Ronald Creek Ranch, which is the largest single piece of ranch in Monterey County that was left in Carmel Valley. And it's completely from Carmel Valley, from the San Lucios, all the way across from Kashawa, over into Carmel Valley, all the way over the mountains, the Sierra de Salinas Mountains, over and down into the city of Gonzales and Soledad. And we were able to, this year, work with another group called Wildlands Conservancy to be able to preserve that property. Property was sale for $45 million. We were able to secure it for $35 million. And the money that we actually used came from a initiative called 30 by 30, which is the state government and the federal government is wanting to preserve 30% of the natural resources and open spaces that we have by 2030. So there was a bunch of money put towards that. Bad for us taxpayers. Bad for the taxpayer, for sure. Good for the native peoples. Because they're trying to do right. They're trying to right wrongs that were done in a form of reconciliation and healing. So we're actually going through a giant healing, and we are part of that. Lynn has shared in her book the pains that we're going through, the travels to Washington, D.C., the American Indian movement from 1960s and 70s that were renegades, that were fighting, that went to Wounded Knee. That's also in this book, going to South Dakota, going to the Navajo Nation. So there's a series of elders and teachers, other tribal members in her book. So she took all those stories, starting with ours, and weaved it together through her life, which is a great honor to see. I'm very impressed with the book. I love the book, but I might be biased because it has my relative right on the front, my brother, and we are just so honored. And to go back to finishing the story, getting these lands back for us has been really amazing, and it's a once-in-a-lifetime chance to do it. So we have been just really working hard on bringing together the resources, and we couldn't do it without the help of the government, the state government. We couldn't do it with donation foundations. And now, there's other tribes all over have been getting land back throughout California and other states. And it's been a great development for everyone. So I want to share that with you. It's a very big thing. It's a recent thing. Land back, you'll see it like hashtag land back. It's starting to fade. They're running out of money because of budget cuts, budget shortfall in the state government. So it's going to slow way down. But just about every tribe I know in this area has gotten some form of land back. Through the co-management agreements, which is working with land trusts, like such as Big Two Land Trust, and other ones that several tribes work through, that they help them secure a piece of property, give them the right to use the property, to manage the property, to have their ceremonies there. And like for our tribe, with the Ronick acquisition, it came the ability for us to be able to build village homes for our people. We're actually turning it into, we're working with the state government, federal government right now, housing groups to help disadvantaged communities, trying to bring back people back to the land, get them back where their ancestors were born, reconnect them. And they have outdoor programs to be able to teach our traditional archaeological knowledge to our youth, to be able to get them connected to the redwood trees. I mean, the lands that we got back, beautiful waterfalls, hot springs, redwoods. You know, we're not cutting the trees down. We're not building a casino. And I think out of all the interviews, which have been all over the world, basically, it's one of the first things these reporters ask me, well, where are you going to build a casino? Mm-hmm. We're not building a casino. Casinos are not good for us. I mean, they're good for some tribes, and it's a way. And there's cartoons that show how, you know, the white man comes with wagons and you see the Indian one, but they're still coming in their conserve wagons and their RVs and going to the casinos throughout there and giving the money back. They will get it $1 at a time, or 1 coin at a time. So, but not to get distracted from this book, you know, Lynn has traveled thousands of miles to do this. She's made her whole life. I'm just so grateful. Thank you so much. I'd love you to share some of the pages of the book, or she would do it. It'd be great. I could talk about it further if you can too.
Well, this was in Big Sur on a ride that I went, which symbolizes that the Esalen had their land had been taken from the sea all the way to the central part of California where they had lived and just lost the land, which now they have back, a lot of it. But it's a continuous struggle that people have to realize and care about and save the different beautiful sacred sites in every state in this country. I'm from New York, and I worked with Shenandoah, who was the chief of the Iroquois Nation, and brought the buffalo back actually by taking a buffalo from the Bronx Zoo. That's how endangered they were, to be able to have buffalo from that were surviving. And he went to Washington and met with Tom and planted a tree of life in Washington, D.C., and hoped that people would care enough about the environment and are being able to live there and breathe and care about this. So these are some of the actually this is Orville Looking Horse, who is the pipe holder of the Lakota Nation. And we met in Washington. But the book has a lot of part about the struggle of the California tribes. And this is at Point Lobos. This is Patrick Yanahay
Rumson.
from the Rumson tribe. And this was photographed about 35 years ago. And about 3 years ago, I met with him 2.5 years ago. And when I talked to him and asked him if we could go out to the same place and photograph, I was worried that maybe in his 80s that he wouldn't be able to get out to the spot, but I was the one who had trouble to get out to the spot, and he was, you know, he was able to, he was in great shape. But some of the places that are in the early part of the book, this is the protest ride, and that we went on in the Carmel River. And this is a healing ceremony with Tom Little Bear that I was allowed to take part in. And actually in the film, when I was using a stereo camera with 2 lenses, and when I went to cut the film, there was a third spirit in the center of the healing ceremony. And throughout the journey, miraculous things occurred. And here's Tom working with Father Charlie at the Carmel Mission about protecting the land. And yes, and this is on the protest ride.
I'll hold some up
Okay.
close in, and
Yeah,
you
was
can
on the
hold it up.
protest ride.
And
And
that one
yeah, and Sarah, who is here, and the editor of the
Monterey.
Monterey County paper, grew up with actually a picture of Tom's little bear's son on the protest ride at the Carmel River, and somehow ended up out here and really interested in helping preserve the land. And so it's been an honor for me to be a part of this and to see the new land and see the water coming back and the Carmel River. Actually, this is a picture where now the river continues to the ocean. And so it's been a very interesting educational trip. This is to be a part of photographing, and I'm just very happy to see the land back movement taking off, and something that is very, very important, and hopefully will continue. And I think if people care enough about it and learn about it, and they can read about it in the book, that they will take an interest and realize how important it is and be helpful in voicing their concerns about it.
Thank you. That's very beautiful. For us with the book, for the tribe, and our tribal youth, and our tribal other generations, elders love this because it takes them back to a day when they were younger and more strength. They love it because, and then they share it with their children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, the stories and the pictures. They can go through that book and share the knowledge. We're really grateful to Lynn. We actually got a big box from her, and we are very actively sharing them with our children and youth. And it's a wonderful gift to have a book like that. It is a piece of history, a very important piece of history. And it's not just about our tribe, it's about, different tribes coming together, doing a similar work. All over the United States, tribes are gathering together again. We're reuniting, rekindling. Many of us were at war together, forever, over territory, both fighting over reservation, right? Because we were taking millions of acres we got to live on free. There's no problems, right? And now, then trying to get back on the land. It's very difficult. So again, remember the reservation system. Remember that, the tribes were very involved in the forming of our democracy, the foundation that we're being rattled by right now. I'm not talking politically. I feel the rumble of the planet, of what we're going to. So Mother Earth is sick. And that's really what we talk about in the book, is trying to portray that the Earth is our mother, that she gives us our water, she gives us our food, she gives us air that we breathe. And we always say she, we always say grandmother, we always say mother. It's really important. Indigenous people, we want to always wake up in the morning and give thanks, greet the sun, continue our cycle of prayers and sharing. I hope that this book will continue. We really thank you for doing it.
It's been my honor to be meeting you and be a part of seeing the land starting on the small amount of land on Tassajara Road that I first came to you receiving this land and knowing that it's going to be protected and beautiful for all of the future inhabitants of the earth. also that, there's such a struggle in other tribes, and just many of the states are not caring as much about protecting, and hopefully whoever becomes the leaders of this country will respect and care about the environment, which is crucial. And reading about the struggles will hopefully be an incentive for people to use their voice to protect our lands and protect the people who do protect the land as well. And I think that hopefully I'll get to see more and more new land and be able, I'm glad it's happened in my lifetime, and that there have been people along the way that have cared about it. And if you want to do,
We want to talk a little about your horse experience. You started your photography. Part of it was
Yeah.
part of the book
um,
and your work.
I think that I had a wonderful relationship with one of my horses that I started in my area where I live, and in New York State, in the Sleepy Hollow area where Washington Irving was, wrote about the headless horseman, and that area was being endangered by development, and I documented it on my horse, who was a real part of it. And horses are such beautiful creatures, and if you connect with them, you understand how special they are. And so for me to be able to photograph from horses that belong to different Native American nations has been a very beautiful part of doing the photography, and because they're definitely a part of this journey. And one of that first book, The Passage Through the Land of Sleepy Hollow, I had the honor of bringing him to the International Center for Photography, the horse that I did the photography on, to meet Cornell Kappa, and the New York Mounted Police escorted him down the road to the museum. And it was every horse that I've worked with, including all of Little Bear's horses, were very special and a very big part of the book. And that enabled me to use their gaits and their movements as part of the photography. It was pre-Photoshop, pre-computer, and it just was a wonderful experience to work with the different horses to try to document the land. And that was also a part of the horse, and especially the white horse. It's a part of a lot of the creation stories of the different tribes, and that was always interesting to me. And I just remember, I don't know if Little Bear remembers, but I had a dream of going off a cliff with a white horse, and it stayed with me. And I had a gray horse who was white. I had several of them, and a few of them were a little flaky. And I always wondered, is this a dream that is going to happen to me? And I asked Tom about it, and he said, well, do you remember hitting the bottom of the earth and when it happened? And I said, no. And he said, well, maybe you flew on the horse. That was one of the most powerful things that you could do. So I always remember that. At the moment, I don't have a gray anymore. I have two chestnut horses. One that I helped pull out of the mother, and the other was a rescue horse. And so I don't dream that the two of them, you know, go off a cliff with me, but it was always a memory that I'll have with me.
So do you remember how you got to here? I mean, because the horse, the white horse, in your dream, in my you know, was carrying you into the darkness, like flames against the dark. How did that name come around? You know, and I'm just thinking that the horse and the camera, because when I met you, we've all taken photographers day all this on wilderness trips. You know, we're now. We have Ansel Adams here on Mount Big Sur, famous photographers all through this area. But what we were intrigued by Lynn's work is that she would take pictures while we're galloping or riding through the mountains or through a meadow and film next to us shooting stills. When you look at it, they're more ethereal, like at the cover of the book. You know, it looks like a dream kind of. And I always saw where you're having that white horse dream. You know, all your pictures look dreamy. And at the time, you were doing a lot from Secret Hollow book. You had, you know, I saw your work from that one. You gifted the book, which I still have and always have and treasure. Seeing your, you know, how fluid you can become with a horse. When you ride a horse, you become one with the horse. And she became in sync when she learned how to ride. I don't know, it was an accident you figured out, right?
Yes, it was accidental. I didn't have high enough film speed, and the film, and I was in a dark woods, and it didn't capture the sharpness of the picture that I wanted, but it captured the movement. And I realized that the feelings of the woods came across much better than the sharp feeling that the movement of the horse. And then I spent a lot of time throwing out a lot of film, trying to figure out what shutter speeds that you could recognize the landscape with, and what kind of gaits produced what kind of movement on the pictures. And it was just a very wonderful experience. And I always felt the horses knew what I was doing. They really did understand that they were part of something in photographing an important landscape, that there was a reason for it. And many of them were not scared at all, and they were very cooperative on doing things. In those days, we had to change film in the middle. I think I stopped many rides in the Ventana Wilderness Ranch of waiting or dropping film canisters and having to get somebody to jump off and pick it up. And it was definite different than the digital photography of today, where you don't have to do that anymore. And the horses understood. They waited and they were patient while you loaded the film, and they're an amazing creature, and people don't realize how intelligent a horse really is and how important.
Thank you for that. I have to say that not all horses or mules agree with that. We already have our share since doing pack trips, seeing people telling them exactly what to bring and what not to bring. And we give them a limit of how many, how much gear. The photographers, they don't realize that pertains to them. So they would come with big bags that were, like so uneven and so heavy from cameras and big lens, not so much you, but other people. Not making fun of you. But I remember the one time that we had a mule named ZZ Tops. And ZZ Tops was a classic gray, wild-eyed looking horse mule, which is half horse, half burro, which we use for packing the supplies because they're very sure-footed, very reliable. They can go down the Grand Canyon. They just go so much better than horses. We had this one named ZZ Top. He had that name because he liked to buck everything off and spin on top in circles, like spinning around and around, but trying to get whatever is on his back that he thinks is a monster. And then cameras started flying out, and lenses, and big telephoto lenses, and battery kits, and flashes, and fold-out screens that make the lighting. We're like, what are you going to use that for? So by the time Lynn came, she didn't have that problem. I think your stuff did take a little ride with ZZ Tops and went for a little spin with a lot of your camera gear, because I remember stuff flying off. Not all horses like to become one with the camera. I have many horses that were young that would end up going crazy from just a camera going click click in the old school cameras. Right? The new ones make it some kind of electric sound, but the old ones like very loud and shudders. So, like I said, really unique photography, really unique, work that you do, unique. I have never seen other work like yours anywhere, showing the bird, just the way you did the shutter speed. I just wanted to share that little piece for you. You want to take a restroom break? Anybody need anything? We're going to move into Q&A. If anybody has any questions here or on the audience or on the internet, if you have any questions, we're open to questions for Lynn and myself. And that fucker over there, Jay Luther.
Yep.
Work on the bar. Yes.
Come have a seat over here, Jay, so we could see you on the.
I don't want to see him.
Ah.
That's brother-in-law. He's senior.
Sure that was me?
Oh, grandpa seat.
Yeah, that was that ZZ Top. That was that zebra done mule.
Spinner.
I had a nice meal most of the time.
Oh, grandpa, we took care of you.
Yeah.
We gave you coffee meat. Coffee bean was a little one for cameras because it didn't do anything unsafe.
Question, Lynn. How many sites have you documented? And how many of them are in the book? And do you tell stories about every site?
The pictures in the book, most of them have a story about where they were taken. I can't even tell you. I'm 70 years old now, and I've been photographing for many years on how many sites that I photographed. But
How did you select the ones for the book?
actually, I have to say, I used by the time the book came along, I used the negatives or the slides that I could find. At that point, I wasn't that organized, and so that had a lot to do with choosing some of the sites, some of the pictures, and hopefully maybe I'll be able to put some of the other places that I documented in a future book.
I had a question about the technical side of it. You talked a little bit about it just now with the movement and the shutter speed to capture that feeling of movement in the photo. But I wonder if, is it the same now as it was when you did, part one of this project? Do you still shoot with film from a horse to get that effect? Or is there a different way to create that effect with newer settings and digital cameras and all those kinds of things?
You can probably create those effects to some degree with Photoshop and digital cameras, and I don't know a tremendous amount about the new AI systems, but I'm sure they'll be able to do things. But you never, with the filters in Photoshop, could create totally the way the horse was, because the movement was not even and it was different. And so you never could capture, unless you're on the horse itself with the slow shutter speeds, the exact type of pictures with the digital type of photography. But as things are progressing, I guess you can do, certain pictures with movement that have some similarities, and I still hopefully will be on a horse more times, because that's the excitement to me of photographing, is doing it with a horse. I enjoy nighttime photography when the camera's on a tripod and I just leave the shutter open and light what is happening, which is in some of the pictures of the book. And probably as I get a little older, that may become more of the kind of photography I do. But you can't exactly control the shutter speeds to have it be the same, by using the digital technology. But you can, it's similar. People do a lot of, of things. But then it's the artistic eye and their control of their filters that will end up to be what their photograph looks like at the end. So that's all important too, is what's in your mind to create. And at the time when I did that photography, editing had a lot to do with it too. Which ones that I took were more showed more of what I was trying to portray in the picture.
Well, he asked you about the sites. Should talk about the Navajo where you went out with the wild horses and went to the different.
Yeah, the last
Badlands and other stories.
the last part was very a couple of years ago. Was very interesting to me that when I had photographed at the Navajo Nation in Four Corners, a doctor who had been interested in my work built a hospital in Chin Lee in Four Corners, and he would fly in. He had his own plane. He was a pilot, and he would operate once a month for the Navajos on their hands, and because the hands were very important. He was a hand surgeon, and I met a veterinarian that was in that Navajo area, and I found out that he had moved and retired to Wyoming, where he had a ranch that he raised quarter horses on one of the reservations in Wyoming, and it's called Wind River Sanctuary, and he had saved 250 Mustangs that were going to be destroyed. And so I went out and had a chance to visit with him. He took me out to show me the horses, and it was just very, beautiful that he was doing something that saving these incredibly amazing horses, and the thought that they could be killed like they are is just very sad. But that was, and I also had a chance to work a little bit with the Shinnecock Nation, who is in New York State, because the tribe is in Long Island, and they own land that they've held on to, that is on one side the wealthiest people in our country in the Hamptons have, and they're fighting as well to save their land, and I had a chance to work with them. And so although that work was not done on horseback, and that's in the book, that was the last part of the book. I had a chance and to do a little work with them. They were a very interesting tribe.
I request permission to tell a short story. I have a large family. Oh,
Here, pass the mic, yeah, thanks.
I have a large family since 1954. We've lived in the Smith River, Crescent City area. As a result, through marriage, a good chunk of my family is native in one way or another, certainly native oriented. My niece, who is Yurok, and her husband, who is Karuk, Lower Klamath region and Upper Klamath region. I kidded her about her mixed marriage. They were part of the group that met with Warren Buffett to bring the dams down off the Klamath, the clams down off the dam. And the first one is down, and they have just started emptying the second one, and I think the next three actually are all going to come down this year, I keep saying next year, 2025, 2024, I mean, it's this year already. And we are, needless to say, extremely proud of the work they have done. And they're recovering not their lands, but their waters. Just as important.
That's good news.
So is your family, are you Karuk or Yurok?
No,
Or
no.
your family?
Me and my brothers and sisters and I are not. But we've had about 3 of my siblings marry into.
No, we work quite a bit with the Yurok and the Karuk people. We just had a big conference down here. They came down to Monterey for international ecology. And we're very good friends. I've known my family actually lived up there in that country. My sister worked with the Forest Service, worked all through that area, worked with the Tripp family, which are on the Klamath. You know, there's quite a few other people that we know in the Yurok. We're very good friends.
Well, there's another separate little story, very short. My brother,
We're doing that because we're filming.
my brother, who was a professional forester, after he retired from the Forest Service, he worked as a forester for the Hupa tribe for about 3 years, and did a lot of training of tribal members to take over that job, involving, tech stuff, satellite surveying, and geopositioning, and all that kind of stuff.
It's great. Thank you.
Tom, also, why don't you tell about what you do with the forest? And, there's so many fires in not only California, but it's affected even people in New York with the Canadian fires and people not taking care of, the wilderness areas. And your job is fighting the fires.
And we're working on more prevention of fires.
Mhm.
We prepare the area for it, prepare the communities. There's so much devastation from fire, but I want all of you to know that for thousands of years, all the indigenous peoples across the United States, they call now, Turtle Island, had burned their lands, not in big, massive amounts of fires like we see today. Small fires, like under all our big oaks, before they harvest the acorn crop, we would burn under the trees, so there wouldn't be any brush going into the trees. 250 years later, we have all this brush up around all of our oaks, our pines, our redwoods, because nobody was tending to the forest that way. People think, well, this is a natural landscape. Well, that's on the contrary. If you go to Point Lobos, so they think, look at these wonderful trees. It's so beautiful. It's so natural. They're not natural. They're native. If they weren't there, you can look at, if you don't believe me, you can look in history photos and see all of Point Lobos, Carmel Bay, even Carmel, hardly a tree. All of Jack's Peak, hardly a tree. There were stands of Monterey pine, there were stands of oaks everywhere, but not the vegetation we see today. So our tribe has been working for a long time on speaking. That's one of the reasons Lynn went to Washington, D.C. with us. This was in '92. The main thrust of going to Washington was not just about dams. It was about being in one with the earth and respecting it. So we went with the Navajo, Dene, we went with the Lakota, Oglala, Dakota, Sioux, all the people, Warren Lions, all these different indigenous people. Roberta Blackgoat, who was one of the main elders, and her entourage from Big Mountain Hopi land and Navajo Reservation, Hopi. We even had people coming from other countries, other indigenous groups from Canada come, and we went to the South Lawn of the White House. And we made a 4-year commitment to go, because everything we do in Tribal Way of Life is for the 4 seasons, the 4 directions, the 4 colors of original root of man and woman, red, yellow, black, and white. People say, where's the brown? It's like, well, red is brown. Some people call it redskins, but if you think of people from Mexico, they're indigenous people too, but met bred in Spanish. So we're all Heinz 57. So now we got ourselves in a quandary where we are dealing with climate change that is definitely real, not fake, and it's in our face right now. I mean, just all over the planet, if you look right now at this moment, there is stuff going on that is not natural. Why is the tundra burning? So at this conference we had, a 7-day conference, we had thousands of people. We had 118 indigenous tribes from Canada, the United States and other areas of Mexico, Guatemala, Argentina, because there's so much mismanagement of forests and lands and tracts of land that are forests. We need our carbon. We need to sequester our carbon. We're having fires because of climate change and the lack of maintenance. Now, President Trump at one point said that California needs to learn how to rake under the trees. And I have to agree with him. Yes, we do need to rake under our trees around our own house to keep these fires. We have to make our own selves fire resilient. So under that, since my grandfather and great-grandfather's time, we have been sharing with new homesteaders that came to get land. How do you live with this land? How can you make a living? How can you keep the resources on the land? So we have always been sharing with people about how to live with one, easy with the land. And so that's going through our generations of family down to my own son who's 40 and is doing it, and the rest of our family are doing it. And the younger ones now that are 18 to 23, 27 are getting into, we don't call it forestry. It always was forestry, where they cut some of the trees from Monterey pines, some of the redwoods to build homesteads, farms. And that was in balance. We don't do logging. We work on fire remediation. Right now, we're currently working in Santa Cruz County, where the CZU lightning is called Complex Fire 2020.
No.
It burnt 8,000 acres, burnt Big Basin State Park. So we're working at Big Basin Park right now. We're working on Swanton Pacific Ranch, which is owned by Cal Poly University, to take, because 80% of the land burnt, everything, the dead, the trees, the redwoods. So we're taking all the biomass of that, and we are working to create biochar, which we take and we burn the logs in this incinerator, this tracked machine that you feed it. It burns, it puts out cubes. Biochar goes in, and we take it, and we're working with Moss Landing Marine Labs, working with Elkhorn Food Foundation, working with the lettuce plants, because we're utilizing biochar to collect and absorb and filter water that comes. Over 2 million gallons a day come out of one wash plant from a lettuce plant. And they'd have to dump it on the ground, put it into the cesspool, clean it up. It takes millions of dollars to clean it up. You take the biochar, filter the wash plants out as they go out. It collects 99.9% of the bad stuff. And then they take that product and go and capture the bad material out of it, re-inject it with nutrients, and put it back in the soil. It stays there for 100 to 500 years in a carbon sink. So it pulls the carbon. Carbon is what we're putting out. Carbon is what's damaging the earth. So just, in your own community, how do you say fire safe? Some of us think in town, like Salinas, that we're safe from fire forever. I never even thought there'd be fires in Chutes Ridge on the north slope of the mountain where it never even sees sunlight and not burnt recently. So, we're definitely out of balance. And indigenous people, you need to look to them to listen to their stories of why they burnt. Why were they burning the land? When the Spaniards came along here in 1675, there was an expedition that came through here. And they said from San Diego to Northern California and Oregon, they saw smokes of many fires as they sailed by. They were just like, they could not figure out what's going on. They were small chimneys, small smokes, not giant ones that we see pluming up forever in the mountains. So they were tending this land. They were farming those trees because we ate acorns, we ate nuts, we ate seeds. Those we have to be able to produce for the trees. We have to give it back. We have to protect those trees. All of us at one point ate acorns. Now we all eat wheat or corn, right? All farmed or GMO or genetically modified. But that's not going to detract from the book. It's just a side story about that Lynn asked me about. Because there are mountains of Big Sur. Big Sur is burned so many times, it's like considered the fire central for all of California, the West. And I've seen trees that I learned from my grandfather, my father, my mother, our family. And then we taught our kids and our grandchildren, those are gone now. All the big oaks, all the big redwoods, all the big pines in our territory are basically burned. If our own, crown jewel, which is Big Basin State Park, which is nothing but massive redwoods, can burn. If we lost 20% of the old growth redwood, sequoia redwood in Yosemite and also Kings Canyon National Park area, the big trees, we lost 20% in the last 2 years. a scary number. And those trees have been there for 3,000 years. That's a long time, 2,000 to 3,000 years. And then all of a sudden, so what happened? What happened? Why are we losing this? That's one thing Native peoples do. That's one of the reasons I want to get our land back as fast as we can. Lots of natural resources, mountains, rivers, forests, so we can teach how we did that. If we don't pass it on, it's not going to exist. It's a thin thread of knowledge from the ancestors to us. I don't think God born in a teepee. I pretty much was born in a cave. People say, where's the teepee? Different cultures. But indigenous people around the planet, around the United States, tribes are really getting together and beginning to share. A long time they didn't want to give anything away, and a lot of them don't, because they already been ripped off. They feel like they didn't listen the first time. Because there's prophecies of 500 years ago that we would start to come back together, that we would learn from each other. And it was prophesied that the people were to come on the eastern door, which is Plymouth Rock area. They were supposed to come in from the western door, which is Big Sur, the west. This is what we consider the west as a certain color. And we're basically, trying to mend the sacred hoop that has been broken, the basket that weaves us all together as one. So that's what my hope today is, and my prayers, and I just want to thank you all for coming. I tell you guys, I am a bear. I look like a bear. I talk like a bear. I drive like a bear. I sleep like a bear. This is wintertime. So for me, this is like midnight. Usually I'm in a lighted building at this time of night, so I can't say forever. I just really thank God for coming. If you have any other questions, we're here. So anybody else wants to ask anything, and again, I want to thank Lynn Butler for coming out. And we couldn't have done this without him. We're so proud of him. So proud of him and the book.
Well, thank you
so
for
much.
coming out and being a part of this and explaining what's happening. And just one other thing, you're the garter of the window in the west where the soul passes.
So it's complicated. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, and so that's a very interesting concept, learning that each tribe was the garter of the different.
Story.
Yeah.
They all have it. They remember it. We pass it down. Singing, dancing, storytelling. We lost our right to pass it to the kids. So many kids today don't have the right to pass it. It's really interesting for being old, not that old enough to see. Remembering there were no cell phones. Remembering when we had a phone that was Olive 9 was our phone number for Colorado. Ladies had some weird numbers. I don't know if they were fours. Do you remember what number they were? Yeah.
There were some fours and 7.
That's right.
Harrison.
Different codes and everything. Today everybody's on their screen. But the good thing, and indigenous people are learning this now, we have to use that. It's called the web, right? Well, there's prophecies of the Navajo and Dene people actually talked about it like 8,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago on their walls. They painted a spider, grandmother spider. It's all part of the creation stories. The spider is part of everything has a story. But that weaving showed on this cave wall on Swaziland, a weaving of the spider going all around the Mother Earth, going like this everywhere. And it showed it going through the ear of one man and out the other, into another woman, in her ear and out to another, and it weaved us all together. So some of the people that have the Dene, and Navajo, and Hopi, they are the ones that went to Washington, D.C. and said, hey, this is a web. And that's really before the web really got going. I'm sure the government knew about the web way before all of us did. But the Navajo and them are really responsible for portraying and saying that story, that prophecy, which actually made the World Wide Web. And it really is happening. It goes through all of our ears and eyes. I don't care what age you are now. Most people have electronic thing that runs their life, which is not a bad thing. We're actually able to get live simulclass like we're tonight talking online here. We have the ability now to be in a ceremony or a meeting about climate or about action items that have to happen, such as the Elway Dam and all that. Our tribe actually went and helped the Upa, the Yurok, the Karuk, all the tribes up there helped with that dam removal because they saw us and they saw that we were able to get a dam. This was the first dam in the history of California to be taken down. The largest, and that was in 2013, we started that project. That's the Sacramento Dam on the Conroe River. We were able to demolish the whole dam. It cost $180 million to do it. And got it. And now, when she was talking about the steelhead and salmon, when I was a kid, there was 130,000 kids. I mean, 130,000 fish per year north of Conroe River. In the fall, starting, and we lived on it because we lived right on the banks of Conroe River, where we couldn't stand eating. By the time April came around in May, and we got tired of eating fish. Get creative. And it went down to 13. And then it went down again to 7. So we have been managed to bring back, it's not us, the community. The water managers, Fish and Wildlife, all the Conroe Steelhead Association, everybody's worked together to bring this fishery back. So when that dam got taken out, because the dams, you put a tourniquet on your arm will fall off. Everything up here is going to start backing up. Dams cut off the flow. They capture all the silt. And this dams from all the fires just filled up completely to the top. Now, the same thing happens up on the Klamath. That's a major run fish, and it disrupted the fish migration. That's the biggest impact on your families, people, is the impact of those big dams on the Klamath, all the way from Oregon down into California. So it's great to see that. I've been up there to some of the events and been to opening ceremonies where they started the process, and we just went to a closing ceremony for one of the dams, and we're all trying to get together and celebrate and have salmon feed. But the salmon, we're getting our fish back, but they're only in the hundreds today. So we're not taking credit for it. We're just saying that it's very important to us. Salmon are what we lived on. It was a staple, but they also bring a world renewal ceremony. Every time they come back in the spring, it's all part of our world cosmology, how we think, how we act, how we are here as humans. It's a reciprocal relationship with the fish. And that's in the ocean too. But again, we're hunter-gatherers. We were farmers. We've been farming for thousands of years. We've been farming oak trees and berries and stuff like that by reducing the vegetation around it, making the plants grow, talking to them. It's something that's going on. All the oak trees, by the way, belong to the women and grandmothers because that's what fed their family. That was their kitchen. And so we have big granite rocks. You see holes in them. They're called pestle holes. Bedrock mortars where they ground acorns into flour. They ground buckeyes. They grounded seed. They did all this along the creeks in most of these areas because they had to wash the acorns to get the tannic acid out of them. And the European did that sauce when they came to Spaniards. And they called us digger Indians. Diggers. Even up in the Sierras, they called us diggers. The women would dig with sticks and dig roots, which were potatoes, carrots, turnips. There was cabbages. It's everything in Native American diet are most of what we're eating today. Right? We've definitely bred and interbred and altered food that we all, I don't care, I believe you're all indigenous because we all came from that hoop. What's the difference between a red man and a white man or a yellow man and a woman? Why is there a difference? Because our minds make us think, well, you're a different color, so you probably don't even eat the same food. Now we're all together, we got to get together and hold hands and work together to heal this earth because she's sick. She's really sick, and she's sick. You ever see a dog shake off fleas? Shaking. Mother Earth can do that in 1 second. It can happen right now. Tomorrow. It's happening all the night. Somewhere right now, something's happening. That is related to Mother Earth. She has so much power and so much strength in her. We could split in half in California. Monterey and Big Sur, all the way down Santa Barbara could all be an island. So just remember that. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it. People get scared. So I'm not trying to be a doomsayer. I'm saying this is reality. I've seen it. You're seeing it. You're witnessing it. Last year we had 80 inches of rain by this time in Big Sur. 80 inches. This year we're at 30. There's a problem. Everybody think, we're over the drought. Everybody turn on your faucets, fill the dams, go swimming, plant that garden, do all you want, wash your car every day. Gotta be careful because everything's changing so fast. They're just, supposed to have this giant El Nino, which we are. That means we get a dry island in Central California where the storms go north of us, they go south of us. Like LA, Santa Barbara, those areas will get hammered, but we won't get it. But we're gonna get one this weekend. That's why I have to go home soon. I want to get
So
on
you
the other
get
side.
there.
Before Highway 1 widens out.
Before you go? Yeah, we'll be signing up.
So, may I I just want to say thank you to both of you for being here tonight and for everyone for being here tonight. This is a really important thing for us in our community to make sure that we are promoting and supporting stewardship of our land with the people who know what they're doing. So thank you, you guys, for being here tonight. I'm going to sign off on the live portion of on the internet thing, and then we can have the real party can start. Sorry, guys.
You have a pen by any chance?
We do have a pen, and so thank you guys very much. Thanks for joining us live, folks. We're going to end.